Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this latest IMRG LinkedIn Live. I'm Andy Mulcahy from IMRG. We're the trade body for online retail in the UK. So we take in lots of data from lots of retailers and we benchmark their performance and have a big sort of insight program around it. What we do in these sessions is we tackle a topic. So what we're looking at today is mobile user experience. Now, if you think about smartphones for quite a long time now, they have had the majority of the traffic, and in the last couple of years, they've had the majority of conversions as well. So it is the sort of de facto device for people shopping these days. So it's pretty important, really. So we're going to have a bit of a chat about what you can do to make the most of that. So joining me today is Brad from Remarkable. Brad, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, nice one. Brad Houldsworth, Head of Product at Remarkable Commerce. We offer a headless e-commerce platform, which is endlessly customizable, incredibly agile, highly scalable, perfect for ambitious retailers with annual turnover between 5 million up to 50. We founded the platform 22 years ago and is today used by many leading UK retailers. My background is in e-commerce and in marketing roles, and I now spend my days leading our product strategy and as a senior consultant on some of our larger clients.
Yep, thanks very much. You're one of those guys who just plugs things in and plugs them into something else, and if it doesn't work properly, then that's great news, isn't it? That's what you.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Yeah. But getting on to the mobile user experience here. So I set it up there. So it's a very important device. People use it a lot. But why? What are the kind of reasons that retailers should really go for it?
So the obvious answer is the huge increase in mobile device usage. So, of course, like you said, then our clients are seeing mobile usage between 60 to 80%, which is ridiculous, and I think we'll soon be closer to 90% for key periods. And like you said, as little as a few years ago, we were seeing desktop conversion rate much higher than mobile conversion rate, and we believe that consumers were researching and then were only confident in purchasing on their laptops or their desktops, but that perception is no longer true because mobile devices are converting much higher than desktops are now, and laptops and tablets. We've seen a huge decrease in tablet usage generally across the board. Desktop and laptops stay the same, and mobiles just skyrocketed. But that means the majority of sales are through mobiles now. So the reason that's important is because that's where the most opportunity for growth is. If you can focus on mobile more than any other device, that leads to a larger impact on conversion rate. So fundamentally, there's more opportunity if you focus on mobile. Another big reason I would say is because mobile is constantly evolving. So think of the innovation and technology in phones. We see new functionality all the time with phones. As new phones are rolled out every year, as iPhones release a new version. There's always new opportunities with mobile, which you possibly don't have with other device types. So opportunity for conversion rate impact, but also the opportunity for innovation. I'd say those are the two reasons that you should really focus on mobile UX.
Yeah, and if you go back, a good few years, I suppose, when smartphones really first came around, there was that problem of the screens are different size, and we haven't really worked out how to map our stuff across. But if the conversion is getting better and people are using it, right, it's not because it's still rubbish; it's because that experience has got better. So, what have retailers done to improve that experience that you could share with people?
Okay, so I would say best practice wise, the way to think of a mobile journey is to take a very holistic, wide angle view. A lot of retailers in the past used to think about, okay, let's focus on product page or a particular page type and really obsess about that and nothing else, and then move on to a different page type. The best scenario I've seen at the moment is clients who take a wide view. They look at how product is used and displayed on every page type. So don't just look at product pages, look at how products are displayed, yes, on product, but also on list pages and categories, also on categories on landing, carousels on landing pages, on your homepage. So think about all those different page types and think about how to improve and strategize the functionality improvements across all those page types simultaneously. And the reason for that is that you've then got a smoother customer journey, because a lot of retailers will have these kind of fragmented, and you see it with larger retailers, you see it with Amazon, their PDP design is vastly different to other page types. And that's because they have these kind of focuses on certain page types. But the journey and the experiences feel so much smoother and nicer when you take a larger view on it. Speaking of phones ringing.
There's the best practice phone right there.
Yeah, I know. So think of all page types simultaneously rather than focus on one page type at a time. And just focusing on that journey a little bit. When a consumer is looking for a product, looking to buy, they don't land on a product page, add it to basket, and buy straight away, unless you're some type of maniac. No one does that. What you actually do is look at the category, you look at other similar products, you'll come back and forwards to the site a few times. You've seen the product in different formats and different ways. So yeah, going back to your question, best practice in terms of mobile UX is thinking holistically how products displayed in various formats across your entire site. Another big recommendation and focus for a lot of our clients is site speed, because when you're on your phone, speed is incredibly important, more than desktop, I would say. You don't have that consideration. Consumers are just focused on speed. So never just be happy with site speed. There's always something you can do to improve the speed of your site, especially on mobile. There's always something you can do. So, obsess about it. Focus on, take a snapshot, go onto Google Lighthouse and do some site speed analysis, look at what the opportunities are, and just keep pushing your development agency or your platform really hard to get site speed up. So those two things.
Yep. Pretty sound advice, I would suggest. And what about the things that they screw up then quite often?
Yeah. Going ahead with things without knowing that they're going to work. So not A/B testing or not doing any type of MVT. Consumers they like personalized content, of course, and retailers think that they're able to just push content to them and that to work. Testing is invaluable in my opinion. So not doing A/B testing is a big one that I would say. Not checking, so not doing testing thoroughly enough on multiple devices. There are much more variants of screen sizes when you think about phones, and lots more variations of browsers and browser versions. So think about testing in a big way. So that's a common problem. Is you might look fine on Chrome on this device, but look at Safari on the iPhone 8 and it looks awful. So think about that consistency. Another big thing is think about consistency between different experiences. So looking at an app versus looking at a mobile site versus looking at a social selling platform compared to, I don't know, an in-store mobile experience. All those experiences should be consistent. You should have the same type of functionality. You should have the same type of certainly products and promotions and all that basic stuff, but they should feel the same. So that's a common pitfall, is not having the consistencies across all your different touch points. And also on UX design and layout, there's some massive pitfalls people make. When they're redesigning, the header, for example, they often don't think about key elements like the site search. Is site search prominent enough? That's a very common issue that the retailers face. And then finally, checkout. Checkout obviously is a huge part of the journey, and people think of it as, okay, well, if it's working on desktop, it'll be fine on mobile. And it's definitely not, 100% not. So, another common pitfall is not optimizing your checkout for mobile devices. There's some really clever, intuitive functionality and features you can have on a mobile checkout now. So yeah, think about that as well. That's quite a big one. Yeah,
okay. So we've talked earlier a little bit about the the sort of historical problems with it. So, how the screen is different size and all that kind of thing. But we've kind of got used to that now. So if we can sort of think about, moving forward, let's say 5 years or so, what do you think will be the sites that are kind of, the sort of market leaders, if you like?
Yeah. I have to try and calm myself down because I get a bit futuristic and innovative when I think about the future. But I think there's some big topics and trends that are going to continue to grow over the next 5 years. There are certainly some sites that I think are already ahead of their time and perhaps could be simplified, probably a little bit kind of watered down a little bit. But going forwards, I think there's a big opportunity with mobile apps. I think they'll become normalized within the retail space, to be honest with you. Over the past few years, there's been a huge increase in the volume of retailers wanting a native mobile app that's separated from their site. So I think that'll be a big trend over the next few years. Of course, augmented reality and that whole AR piece is specifically built for mobile. There's some really cool experiences that I've seen where products are being placed in position and can be viewed from, in a virtual way. But I think that whole AR space is going to explode over the next 5 years. But then there's the more sensible things like voice entry. Voice search and voice entry has been on everyone's radar for the past few years, but hasn't really exploded. Hasn't really become like a big trend. But I think we'll start to see the introduction of voice entry, which is different to voice search, because voice entry is essentially getting to a checkout, for example, on your phone, and instead of typing in every single field, you would just enter the fields with your voice. So you just talk out that form and fill it in rather than having to type in and spend time doing that. So that type of concept, I think, is going to start to become quite common. Another one is security and data. So security obviously is at the forefront of a lot of people's minds now, especially as older generations have started to become more familiar with technology. They've started to become obviously more familiar with the security implications and worrying about and having security concerns. So I think we'll start to move into a space where obviously you've got your first party versus your third party cookieless situation going on at the same time. But I think consumers are wanting to become more in control of security and their data. That's another big trend. Try to calm myself down. There's another one I'd say around open banking. So I've seen some really cool tech recently, which is instead of having to enter your card details or instead of having to manually go through the checkout and the payment process, some cool tech around using open banking technology to pay, in one click essentially. And there's some innovative functionality happening there in that space. So yeah, that's quite a clever one.
Yeah. Okay. And then because that bit was quite excitable, with a little brevity for the final minute here, but just because of time of year and everything, I just wanted to get your perspective on expectations for the peak trading.
Yeah, fair. Well, I mean, we're already in peak, aren't we? So for a lot of retailers, we're already there. So obviously, this is the second year of peak trading within a pandemic. So obviously, we should be learning things from last year, and I think a lot of marketing and trading teams will be taking massive learnings from last year and applying them. We've seen a lot of activity happening earlier than before this year, which I think we all predicted. We knew that was going to happen, but I know that consumer confidence is up this year compared to last year. Obviously, we're in a different place, even with the pandemic still happening. We're in a different place to as we were last November. So yeah, consumer confidence is up 21-ish%, I think I saw, which is obviously really positive. So I think we're going to see some really big numbers this year. An associated kind of trend on that is obviously the queuing systems. So in our world, some of our larger clients, and I know I heard a podcast earlier where Rafa were talking around the Replatform podcast, and they were talking around queuing systems and the importance of that. So I think demand is going to be up there. It's going to be big, and but I think we're all prepared for it. We all know what's going to happen.
That's it. Yeah, it's fun.
Well,
Excellent. Well, I thought there's some really interesting things there actually for looking ahead to what we think might happen. So I hope to take something from that. And Brad, thanks for joining us today.
No problem at all. Cheers, Andy.